Welcome to Creators Not Robots number 6. This is the last one for the year. And I wanted to thank you guys all for showing up. This has been a really awesome experience. This was a little bit of an experiment. I started doing these out at a bar just to see if I can get a bunch of creatives to show up and join and share work. And I'm actually amazed at like how far it's come. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to the community, because without the community, like, I think it would just be me alone drinking beers by myself. So you guys fucking kick ass, and I can't thank you guys enough for showing up and supporting. That said, I wanted to go and talk about Creatives Not Robots like 2021 and where it's going. I'm taking a bit of a break after this year. They've been going on for a while. We've it's bi-monthly, and we started in December, and it's been a whole year. And I completely underestimated the amount of work that goes into setting up a show like this and just curating people and getting all that stuff out. And as you can see at the start of this, like, it really wasn't a smooth beginning, because I'm piecing it together as I go. But just to recap for like all the new people who've showed up, Creatives Not Robots it's a meetup intended to be like a safe space for all of us creatives. The idea is it's a place where we can share work and get critiques, and just, as you'll see during the show and tell, like, you can show off and talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about, and get critiques when you want critiques, and just kind of go off on a rant if you need to go off on a rant. And so for 2021, what I was hoping to do is, if you guys like this format, and if we want to see this continue, like, I wanted to reach out to the community and have you guys reach out back and just let me know if you want to help. And essentially what I'm looking for is I'm looking for other creatives to like help me keep the show going. And what that looks like is I'm looking for creative pieces that I can use for the social content, because every month, like, I'm trying to generate new social content, and that's rough, and that takes up a lot of time. And if anybody's willing to help, like, I'm looking for 3 to 6 pieces that I can use to help promote the show. I'll tag you. I'll do whatever you guys want in terms of like the artwork. I know I'm asking for, I'm borderline asking for like free work here. It's the whole for exposure thing, but I'm strapped out for time, and that's all I can think of. And then I'm also looking for somebody to like help lead the charge. I've already gotten one person to come up and help me. Her name is Amanda. Unfortunately, she's not here because of a wake. But this person would come and just help kind of like handle duties with me, and then just keep the show going. And all this stuff I'm going to send out in the social channels. And then speakers. That's the other thing that's been a super pain in the butt for me, is finding people to like help share. You guys all kick ass, and I know you guys all have work to show and have something to say. And so if any of you guys are up for it, please, like, the more speakers I can lock in for future shows, like, the better. And honestly, it can be anything. Like, it could be you could talk about animations, illustrations, designs, photographs, writing, music. Just as long as you're in the creative field, like, I want to hear from you, because I feel like everything we do cross pollinates, and I want to hear different perspectives. And the last thing is always the elephant in the room is money. Like, the first year, like, I put up my own money, and I've run out. If you guys go to the Creatives Not Robots site now, you can see that it's down, because I only paid for a year of website space, and I'm out of money, so it's dead. Right down to the wire. And so essentially what I'm looking for is I'm looking for an agency or a company to be a sugar daddy. And we can talk more about that. But if you guys can reach out to like any company
It's sexual related?
yeah,
Could you be like, yeah.
completely. I'll do them
So
favors.
not just
Classic.
money, but also
Yes, anything they want. I'm
sexual
here.
intercourse?
I'm ready. I'm ready. But so it's essentially just that, like, if you guys know of any companies who might be interested in getting their names out in front of Creatives Not Robots, it's less of a marketing thing and probably more like a recruiting thing, because like all I can give them in return is access to all of you in terms of
Mm-hmm.
of people who kick ass. And so to recap before we get back in the show, that's essentially it. It's Creatives Network Robots 2021. These are all the things I'm looking for. If you guys can stew on it, and then give me a shout out at 028 or at Amanda at J.A. Javovsky. You can see it on the site. That would be awesome. Just stew on it. And now back to the show. Sorry for the whole NPR funding moment there. So this is the schedule. We've kind of blown past it a bit, but we're going to try to stick to it. We're going to go right into show and tell, and then after show and tell, we're going to do presentations, and after that, we'll open up the meeting for pretty much all questions. And so usually show and tell, like the way it's run is we show the piece, and then we have the creators talk a little bit about the pieces, and we're not going to be taking any of those questions until the end of the show. This way we have time for the presenters to talk, and then so we're going to have the presenters present, and then the presenters will have time for like a short question and answer, and then at the end of the show we'll open it back up so everybody can ask either the show and tell people or the presenters. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Quick overview of how the meeting flows. We have a moderator. That's me. If you guys when the presenters are going, if you can turn your mic on mute, that would be great. If you have questions, use the raise your hand function to like signal me, and I'll mute you so you can ask a question. But usually everyone's fairly respectful, and the way these shows have gone is like we just mute ourselves for the entire presentation, and then at the end of the presentation everyone unmutes and everyone is respectful enough to like ask questions without overstepping each other. We also have a chat window, which you guys have seen. Use that during the presentation if you guys have questions or comments or just want to share work. It's a great place to do all that stuff. And then for all the new people, if you guys could throw the Sync Sketch chat in there, that would be great. And then to view everything, you have to make sure you're logged into Sync Sketch. So if you guys check out your chat, a bunch of you guys have already logged in, but if you haven't, the link is in your chat, and that's where we go to see everything. And then that's it. I can stop sharing. And so now, if you guys can all pop into Sync Sketch, we can proceed with show and tell. All right, so this first piece, this one's by me. It's funny, like I'll play it real quickly. Like I went back and I compiled all the social posts I made, and it was actually quite a bit of work, and I just wanted to share it, and that's it.
Looks great.
And
Can you play that like 20 more times?
Yeah. Keep it going.
I'll play it for a couple more times. There we go.
B, were you surprised that did you feel in the moment that it was a lot of work, or did you feel kind of like that it was something that you were passionate about that later on you thought, oh my gosh, like if you added it all up, it was a lot, or did it just kind of fly by?
I think I was just making it at the time and just thinking to myself like, oh, I'm just doing one-offs. But then when I sat back and looked at it all, I was just like, oh, wow, I actually churned out quite a bit. And some of it's recycled and some of it's like reused. But overall, like I got a bunch of cool pieces. And I think I developed a style that I really dig in general.
Which one is your favorite out of all those?
I think
your least favorite.
The gummy worm.
Yeah, and also least favorite.
The gummy worm is my favorite. My least favorite is just the squares with the colors, just because I broke down. I didn't have enough time. Just being honest. All right, so the next person to go up is Eric. Eric, would you like me to play this first, or do you want to talk first?
Sure. Obviously, real quick, it's a work in progress demo reel. I haven't done a demo reel in a really long time. So hoping for if anyone has any reactions on what's working, what's not working, that's great. But yeah, I just wanted to share it.
All right, here we go. Nice. I dig it.
Nice.
Cool.
Anybody have any comments real quickly before we move on to the next one?
What was the all the cool artwork you had, like with the maps, and it looked like you were playing Risk. Like, where was that from?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the museum. It's the Infantry Museum, and it was a shoot just kind of showing Cold War kind of stuff that we did some motion tracking for.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate it.
I dig it. All right, we're gonna move on to the next one, and then we'll loop back and open up questions for Eric at the end here. Oh, the next one is Katie and Tom.
Oh.
You guys want to say something about this real quickly?
Yeah, I would say Tom didn't really do anything. He like didn't write it. He didn't really come up with like the idea. And he actually calls me almost like every night to say thank you for like all the work I did on it. And I'm like, oh my God, Tom. That's so nice of you. No, Tom wrote it and I helped produce it and we all acted in it and we wanted to produce some type of creative content that spoke to the safety precautions that we're taking on set during the pandemic, but in a way that wasn't in your face, like wash your hands and wear a mask. So we wanted to make something a little bit more entertaining. And we had a lot of fun working on it because I think it was one of the first shoots, right, Tom, that we actually all got on set. And it was a real eye-opener, at least for me, of how long it takes to shoot something while you're trying to avoid a deadly disease. So good luck waiting for all your TV shows to come back because it's going to take fucking forever to shoot shit. But it was really fun. And Tom, what was your favorite part about working on this?
I mean, it was really an exercise in restraint because our lead talent, he really went method on us, and it was
really
surprising, and it was a little bit of a shock. I do want to point out, though, and I'm disappointed that I didn't remember this at the time, the entire concept is based on a story by one and only B.
Oh, thanks, man.
It is.
It was a one-off. Lucas directed it, by the way. That's the guy in the red shirt on your Zoom screen. Say hi,
Wave,
Lucas.
Lucas.
Dead center on mine. He's right in
here
the
we
middle.
go. We're going to kick it off.
You guys ready? Yeah, you can get your lines, Dean.
All right, everybody, quiet on set. Stand by. Mark, can I get a flag?
Yep. Oh, starving.
Jeez, man. It's called social distancing. Selfie.
Good to go.
All right, everybody, we're going to stand by. And action.
Without technology, your business will be transformed.
All right, cut.
Can we get that one more time? Picking up something on the mic.
We're going to run the lines again.
Oh, Candy.
Mark, you're killing me. Where's my flag?
I'm still hearing something.
We're fine. Don't worry about it. Stand by. Where's my flag? Come on!
Hit the spot. I just needed a little pep in my step. Sound is back.
I didn't go to Arizona Phoenix Film School to hold my own flag, Mark.
And that's the spot. That was awesome. I'm going to ask either Katie or Tom or Adam if you guys can post the link to the in the chat room. If you guys want, you can watch it again on the Anchorline Vimeo. There's actually an awesome end sequence that I couldn't include in here because we have too much work to turn through for show and tell. All right. So the next one is Nick. Nick, are you able to say anything about this piece? Nick looks like he's out in the forest.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I thought this was like a hiking Zoom thing where we're on hikes together. No, seriously, I'm just too busy. I had to walk my dog while I'm on this, so sorry about that. Yeah, this is something that I did about a year ago for Timberland Pro, and it's just a spot for them that we shot. There's some BTS. It was with a small crew. It was myself, my friend Chris Roller, an AC, a PA, and then someone from Timberland Pro and one talent. So super small team, but did the project like storyboarded it out, like, did it right, and it turned out really good, I think. And there's some BTS photos in there too, I think.
All right, I'm gonna kick it off, and then you can talk during the BTS photos, okay, Nick? And then we have the photos, Nick. You want to talk about them? Are you able to see the photos at all?
Yeah, not really. I'm on my phone, so you can tell me what each one is maybe, and I can talk about them.
So the first one is, it looks like you're leaning up against like an unbuilt house, and the guy's looking at plans.
Yeah. So it's inside?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was like one of the scenes that we did there. We had, like I said, we had a small team, which I think you can see pretty much everyone in that setup. And, we had a little director's monitor that we lugged around, and I think we had like 3 or 4 lights that we used as needed. So mostly like practical lights, or sort of mimicking like daylight. The shoot was a split, so we did sunrise and sunset, and did 3 or 4 hours in the morning, 3 or 4 hours at night, to try to make the whole thing look as if it was all at sunrise or all at night, which was interesting, and I think it worked pretty well.
Yeah, nice. So the next one is you guys are outside, and it looks like the Timberland rep is touching some guy's leg.
Yeah, we had like a hero shot. The hero shot was the slow-mo sort of like parallax on the dolly ground there. And that took a little. That was like the hardest thing that we did, I think, in terms of the shots, just getting the timing right and getting that camera motion right, because it was done by hand on that track. So the setup of that, I think that's the one you're looking at.
Yep. And then the last one is with Chris Roller. It looks like he's filming the hero boot stomp.
Yeah, I think that's underneath the house there.
Yep.
I don't have anything necessarily to say about the individual photos beyond what I've said. So
that's awesome. Well, it looks like a cool shoot, man. I dig it. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next one, and then we'll have questions open up for the end for you. Okay, Nick? All right.
Yeah.
So the next one is Adam. Adam, do you want to say anything about this real quickly?
Yeah. So this was a project I finished last October, actually. And I sort of worked on it throughout all of 2019. And it's sort of like a love letter to friends and family in the outdoors. And it's just like a super personal project. And I had a lot of fun with it.
All right, here we go. I'm going to hit play. awesome. All right, so
Yeah.
That was definitely awesome.
so I'm
That
gonna
was awesome.
I'm gonna play these on loop while you can talk about them real quickly, Adam.
Oh yeah, so these are some behind the scenes things I put together for it. So essentially, all of those those letters are kind of wiped on. I did those frame by frame in Photoshop and made these animated mats, and that was a lot of fun because I'd never done that before.
How long did that take?
It took a while to figure out the actual technique, but once the technique was kind of figured out, it went pretty speedily, actually. You kind of set up like a little thing with shortcuts in Photoshop. Oh, I guess we should talk about this one
Oh no, do you want to go back to the other one real quickly and talk about shortcuts?
now. Yeah, sure. I mean, so essentially I set up the timeline so I could draw on one layer and then duplicate it and then draw on the next layer and continue that. You can kind of see all the little layers at the bottom there. And then you export that to After Effects, and it works pretty well. Yeah, so if you want to go to the next one.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And so this is kind of the technique for everything, and it's essentially like all these photos I've taken, anywhere between 2016 and 2019, and they all have like some, meaning in my recent life. And so I kind of took these and broke them apart into, a way to animate them. Try to pick things that I could actually animate, kind of like a bowl and a spoon. And yeah, it was fun.
I fucking love this piece. All right, on to the next
That's awesome.
one. Sean and Amy, or Sean, I think.
Hey guys, yeah, real quick. These are just some stills that we've put together for part of a larger media package that Amy and I were lucky enough to get picked up by Emerge Maine, which is a nonprofit chapter of the National Emerge, which focuses on recruiting and training women to run for all levels of elected office, and also hooks them up with an awesome network of women leaders, basically trying to countervail the old boys network of politics and getting more women elected. And they've had a lot of success here in Maine. So we've been creating these graphics and some animations and videos that are coming out as well, that just highlight for the first time the work that they do and trying to broaden their brand awareness.
It's awesome. Okay, next one is Jason. Ooh. Jason? Yep. Yeah, it is Jason.
Yeah. Hold on. I was muted.
Yep. Tell me when you want me to skip to the next one.
Okay. Yeah. So these first couple is just like examples. Like this is I was asked to do like a creative portrait for a designer. So this is the designer's branding. And so based off of the mood board that she gave me, and then you can skip to the next one. I put together this mood board of images. I really like the play in color and just like the nice like gel style that she was using, and so collaborating with her and putting those two things together, we got the next slide, which is like her creative portrait. It was a lot of fun. And then for the next slide, this is a shoot that I just recently did with Bicycle Magazine. I actually just finished it. It was up in Northeast Vermont on the Kingdom Trails. So the magazine hired me to go and shoot a library of images to kind of just gather an essence of 3 people like a day on the trails. And this is like just some of the stuff that I came up with, that we ended up with. It was a rainy, wet, cold day. It was pretty perfect.
It always is.
And then the third one is a test shoot that I recently did for Merrill. I just completed a project with Merrill and kind of have their ear in a sense. So I was actually already like putting this stuff together to kind of pitch to them anyways. And so it was kind of perfect timing to really like pull this one off. And hopefully like this one isn't like totally done yet either, but I would give it like a few more days, a couple more tweaks, and it'll be ready to go. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to the last few months.
I think it looks awesome. All right. The last one is Kyle.
What's up, guys? So I just recently moved back to Buffalo, New York, after being away for close to a decade in Nashville. And like in Nashville, because it's down in the south, we really don't get a true fall or winter there. So like one of my main goals when we moved back in August was when the trees started changing, I wanted to get out and just shoot more. So this first shot here is in Chestnut Ridge, which is about 20 minutes away from where I'm living downtown right now. But I just loved how, even though the water is not super calm, I just loved how the colors still popped on the lake there. That's about it for this one.
Next one.
And then, it's just another crop of it. Sorry. I didn't know which way you were going to present it.
Oh, I see both. All right. So we'll go to the next one.
And then Shays downtown is a theater that's actually, they're not operating right now, obviously, as every other place is shut down. So one of the main shots when I moved back to Buffalo that I wanted to get was this Shays Buffalo sign like lit up, because it looks so cool going down that street. And then there's this like monorail kind of thing on the tracks there. And unfortunately it was turned off, but I still really wanted to get a shot. So I got one of the monorail going by with the lights for a long exposure here.
That's slick. And the last one is Amy. Yes, it did load up. Amy?
Hey, yeah, no, sorry, this is part of the same thing before. This is one of the animations that we made for Emerge. Sean thought that maybe you had just missed it. But anyway, so the two go together, and this is one piece. This is the final of 5 short little animations introducing all the candidates that are running in Maine this year, which is pretty cool.
I'm going to play it. That's awesome. All right.
Thank you.
So with that, I'm going to switch controls over to Resita, our first speaker. We're running a little behind, but after the speakers go, we can go back to these. And then if you guys want me to replay any of them, I can, so that we can talk about and ask questions about all of them. All right, Resita, it's all yours.
Earlier we were talking about like what's a good bad movie, and I've decided my good bad movie is the B movie. So that's a little bit about me.
That's pretty good.
Jerry Seinfeld,
The
not
Seinfeld
Jerry
one?
Seinfeld.
I enjoyed it. I think that's awesome.
I like jazz. I like jazz too, so there's that. Yeah, so my name's Rosita. I'm a designer at an animator at Black Math, which is located in Boston. I moved around here like around a year ago. Before that was in art school. So I had like this transition from school to adulting, and it was like I was trying to be comfortable with discomfort. And I mean, I think I still suffer from imposter syndrome, but it was really, really bad when I first started out. So imposter syndrome means the idea that you've only succeeded due to luck and not because of your talent or qualifications. Which honestly, for you guys out there, that's not true. Like stuff I saw today, that's like really good. Just I want you to hear that because I was on mute. So here.
That's awesome.
So yeah, like new city, new job, looking for friends, and I was comparing myself to people with like 5 to 10 years experience, and I feel like this is kind of relevant because everyone's in quarantine. So we just like go through social media and that's how we see others. But we forget that everyone's also flawed. So we just see the good stuff. But just gotta remember that everyone's like, you're like me and I'm like you, you know? So don't beat yourself so hard about it. So I'm gonna share this progress from this to this, which is what I worked on with my coworkers. This is an ad for Reebok. Yeah, and as I walk through this, I'm gonna give you like couple of tips on like how to get over imposter syndrome, and this is how I did it. Might be helpful for you. Feel free to like just take or leave. So I picked up skating when I moved to Boston because one of my coworkers skated, and I tried it out because I've always wanted to, but my parents just didn't want me to have any scars or whatever because I was a girl. But now I'm a free bird, so I get to do whatever I want now. So yeah, trying something new made me think about when I first started drawing when I was like 4, and like I didn't care if it was good or bad, I just enjoyed drawing it. So and it also made me realize like first time getting on the board versus 2 months in, like you would improve no matter what because you were on the board. So even though you don't feel any progress, it's there. It just adds up slowly. Like you put a dime in a jar, like if you keep doing it every day, like it's there, like you'll have 7 by the end of the week. So yeah. And before quarantine, everything shut down. The last book I'm an art nerd. I like looking at different artists, and I'm a curious person. I was looking into Ettore Sotsas. So he's like a designer, not in my realm, and I just loved his work. And it got me into looking at Memphis. And around this time, I was like, okay, well, everything's shut down. I might as well start like a little project, and I did. So the skateboard I had was like something I found on the side of the skate park. Nobody wanted it, so I took it. And then I eventually bought one because I was like, well, I really want to like do an ollie. I want to do a trick. And I couldn't do it with this janky board that I had. So I went ahead and bought one. It's more expensive when there's a design on it. So I just got a blank one and I was like, all right, let's put a design on it. So I was looking into Memphis and Keith Haring, and I ended up with like just putting some, I don't know what I was doing. I was just like, all right, let's make this pretty, put some colors on, and I put like a mock-up to see if it would look good. And then I didn't have anything fancy. I just had tape and spray paint. So that's what we worked with. And as a result, I couldn't do curves because I'm not super crafty. So we went with straight lines and rounded edges. And yeah, that's what we got. It's different, but it's because I was limited. So yeah, just make something for yourself. I hate that like me and my friend were talking about this, but it's like almost in every inspirational speech it's of talk or whatever by like an artist, it's always like do a personal project, but it's like it almost sounds like you're doing it for someone else when you say that. So I would rephrase it and say make something for yourself. It just like gives you this confidence and you don't really care what others are thinking, but you're just doing it for yourself. It's just not for others, just for you. And when you have this mindset, you're not thinking about the results, you're a lot less afraid because it's just you. So around this time at work, we had a gig from Reebok, and this is what my coworkers sketched up, and clients really liked it. And my creative director was like, "Rosita, make it look good." So I was really into the thing I did with my skateboard. So I was also looking into some vintage stuff because that was what they wanted. This shoe was called Reebok CL Legacy. So they were trying to like bring out the legacy and the old designs of their shoes. So the theme they wanted was retro. So I was looking into like 80s graffiti, and like I really like that bubbly like look. So I introduced that into like these designs. These were like the first first few ones. And then I basically personified the motifs on the skateboard, and this is what we got. And so we went ahead with, I sort of showed references to like the modeler, and I wanted it squishy. I wanted it to be clustered, and those were some hand references. Yeah. It's just easier for the modeler if you like sketch it out. So this is what I did. It doesn't get as lost in translation in comparison to talking because we're all just visual artists at the studio. So yeah. And then we ended up with this. And then towards that, we modeled it. We added more textures, different colors, and then made its way to social media. So yeah, just enjoy that process. And getting into the right mentalities definitely helps. And I'm going to end with a Matrix quote. Don't think you are, know you are. So basically just believe in yourself. Yeah, and one day you might be able to do an ollie. Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
So we have time for a couple of questions for Rosita before we move on to Ryan, and then at the end we'll open it up for everybody once again.
I just wanted to say I loved your skateboard design. Super awesome.
Yeah, if you ever think about, selling any of those, let us know, please.
Yeah,
cool.
It's like just a lot of designs are just full of either skulls or hot girls. I was like, I'm good, not my style.
That's awesome. I really love the fact that you gave the motifs hands, like just a little image of like the reference you had, and then just seeing the hands in general, like it adds a lot. I don't know if you can go into like the thinking behind why you chose to give him hands as opposed to just stubs. Was it just like a gut feeling, or you just wanted to, I don't know, it felt like it needed more?
So in like the previous sketches, there was one with feet, and it just, well, I personally don't like looking at feet. I don't like looking at my own. I like putting on socks a lot of times. I don't know, just hands are a lot more personable in comparison to feet or stubs. Also, just the stubs ended up being like making some parts look like butts, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, there was one image where I was just like, that looks like a butt, but I'm not gonna say anything.
You weren't the only one who thought that. I thought it too.
I just wanted to know because B knows that I like have a very big aversion to animated rubber people that people make like on the internet all the time, where they're like their bodies flop all over the place. And he's always Rick rolling me, and he's like, "Hey, I found this really cool video," and I'm like, "Is it a rubber person?" It's like, "Definitely not, definitely not." And then I get it, and it's like rubber people like going through tubes and coming out and like jumping all over like mountains and stuff and flopping around, and it's just. And then when I saw that, I was like, now I know why B picked her to be this speaker, is to troll me, is to have these rubber people on this background.
No, I didn't know what Rosita was doing, and I thought her work was amazing. I mean, anybody else disagree?
I thought it's really cool. It's really cool. But it's also, it's creepy to me, but it's also really cool.
All right, well,
like when those rubber peoples make you feel something, it's like it's a good sign because you feel something.
Yeah, but it's so gross. They like all flop all over, and there's like, no.
Well, I mean, just be happy that she hates feet also, because she could have done rubber feet.
It's true. I also don't like feet.
Yeah.
So.
Amen to that.
All right, so one more question for Rosita before we move on to Ryan.
I got one.
Yeah.
So you showed like a bunch of different color variations for the final. Do you know why they chose like the pale one as opposed to the blue one or the red one?
I guess more contrast. I don't know. Like, I feel like the red one had contrast too, and the blue one too, but personal choice, because I think it has to go through like their creative director and then PR as well.
Yeah, it has to go through the
So
spanking
that
machine.
It's not offensive or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
But if you could have picked, would you have picked the same one?
So I'm from Hong Kong. So when I saw that, I was like, this feels like Chinese New Year stuff. Okay, B gets it.
I want $1.
I was like, it's not Chinese New Year yet. Like it just happened already. It doesn't make sense. But like this, not everyone thinks that. So yeah, I would have chose the blue one and the red one, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now that you say that, it really does have like a really festive vibe to it. I dig it. All right, Ryan, we're gonna give it up to you. You now have control, good sir.
Cool. I'm gonna share my screen. All right. So my name is Ryan Garish. I currently work at DreamWorks Animation on Boss Baby 2. I'm sure you guys are all eagerly awaiting the release of that movie, because I'm sure you've also all seen the first one. But I'm going to show you the steps that I went through to make a painting of an underwater graveyard today. So I'm a big nerd and I like Magic the Gathering, and I wanted to do a submission for them. Magic is a card game, and there's a bunch of different elements that represent different states of nature. So like the color black is like death and graveyards and stuff like that, and blue represents stuff that's alive in the ocean and a little bit of magic. So I wanted to combine like these black and blue ideas. So I wanted to make a graveyard that was underwater. So I first just went to the Google and started trying to compile some reference, and there are these underwater sculptures in Granada that I just thought were really amazing, and they have all this super cool texture on them, and it's this interesting juxtaposition of like you have these living barnacles on things that are not alive. I thought that was just super cool, and the color palette is really nice too. I just like all these like aqua colors and different shades of blue, and they're also kind of haunting at the same time, so I thought this was like a good starting point. I'm not sure how these get made, but they just look really remarkable. The other types of reference I wanted to look at was graveyards and mausoleums. And I just kind of wanted to see what was sort of a cross between like iconic, but something with a little visual interest to it. And this on the left is a church that's in Brompton Cemetery in London. That was really cool. Like I really like the flanking figures outside the door. And I really like this color of the door, like really cool rust on it. And then I also kind of like this composition up here. So that's kind of what I started the painting with. I use a lot of photos for reference and just kind of cut and paste until I get something that's rough and that I like. But this has like some nice depth to it. And I might be able to show off some of the detail in the foreground of one of these graves. I thought this was a really cool idea. So I like to do some studies before I do a big painting, so I'm not thinking so much when I go to the final piece. So I tried doing this first to get sort of the look that I liked before applying this to the whole thing, because there's a lot of different colors in these barnacles and this algae that's growing on everything. And I kind of liked how a lot of the elements were sort of darker on top and it kind of fades and gets more green and blue at the bottom. And that everything's just worn. And it looks like it has it endured the test of time at the bottom of the sea. So this was a really dirty first pass. Even when I'm just doing work for myself like this, I always like to get critique from other people that are in my field. So I worked with my art director on this at work. And it's just like at the end of the day, I'll be like, hey, can you give me notes on this painting that I'm just doing? Even though it's not work related, it's just recreational, but I just really value his opinion. And so he did this super quick, just levels adjustment. And he was like, you should make these shapes, the sand like overlap these things to make them feel like they're really sitting in there. And you should spotlight the mausoleum a little bit to make it more of the focal point. And you can move this gravestone up to the foreground. So I'll take these notes and then I'll just iterate until I feel like it's there. So I'm just gonna step through all these iterations. So I'll take these notes and then I'll come back. So I'm like adding detail and textures and trying to apply the techniques that I learned about when I started doing the sketches at the beginning of the process of the stuff in the foreground. I also made a fish brush, which just made all these fish look super cartoony when everything else was like kind of grim. I probably would have saved time just by painting all these fish instead of making a fish brush. And that's what my art director said too. Like, these fish look too happy. It looks like you made a brush and just kind of, sprayed them everywhere. They should feel a little bit more organic. So he gave me some more notes on this. The foreground should feel a little more busy. Like, this is the bottom of the ocean. It's a graveyard. The sand is just a little too clean. A little SpongeBob SquarePants. Like, I should beat it up a little bit. And also I can be more aggressive with these shadow shapes. So it would be cool if I treated the focal point more as like a light source rather than this off-screen light being dominant. So I could like push this idea of these shadows emanating from the middle of the composition. So then this is the final piece. So I kind of tried to make the fish more skeletal looking, and I tried to eat into everything. So I'm trying to chip and blur the edges of foreground elements to make it look like maybe the lens is smudged or something. You're underwater. I looked at a little bit of Pinocchio reference for this stuff. Like, even though it was made so long ago, they did such a good job of all the underwater sequences. And I just tried to make the mausoleum like a bigger, brighter, more contrasty focal point, and cast all these shadows that come from it. So that's what I got.
I think that's awesome. I love the God rays on the painting.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Could you talk about like your interactions with your art director? I mean, that's really interesting. It seems like your art director gave you like a lot of solid direction. It's funny because usually with my art directors, I feel like they're just like, just make it better.
I had a good relationship with my art director. So like he always gave like really specific notes. And I also showed like at the beginning of the process. So like, if he was like, hey, this composition is bad, like you should do another one. Like, I'm not afraid at any point to tear it all down, to make it better. So not that he had notes like that on this one. I just kind of got lucky in my first pass that like the composition was okay. And like most of this stuff that he walked me through had to deal with, value and color, and not composition. So I was able to address all of those notes easier than if he would have been like, nah, you should like move the camera around a little bit,
I dig it.
Cool.
Sweet.
Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, Ryan, I have a question.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I know that you worked in production in the past.
Yeah.
And so that I feel like from someone that works in production and doesn't, can't draw anything. How have you found that has helped I know you had an art background in education, and then you started in production, which a lot of artistic, creative sides do, just to get their foot in the door at DreamWorks, and you were working your way up there, and then you started to take the leap into more of the creative side. How do you feel like that production side has crafted your workflow?
I feel that I'm just really comfortable getting notes now, and I'm comfortable with deadlines moving around, and it doesn't have anything to do with you, and it's just stuff that happens. So like everybody gets notes, doesn't matter how high level you are, you're gonna get notes. It's cool. Your job's to address the notes with like a positive attitude, because that's what you do in production, is just you see stuff get made, and then stuff that is made, you see the changes that happen to it as you go through the process. And it's just because everybody wants this thing to be better, or sometimes just different, but just to not take that stuff personally. So when I'm showing to my art director and he's like, these fish look like trash, I know that he knows that I can make fish that don't look like trash. He's not saying, he's not talking down to me, but I'm agreeing with him. I'm like, yeah, those fish look like dumb cartoon fish, and I should change them. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I mean, that's a really enlightened look on feedback, because I feel like coming sometimes. I wish that a lot of creatives would be like that, because sometimes when you give feedback, you get nervous about then people taking it personally, and I think that that's a really great quality to have as a creative, because as somebody who's coming from like a client side, or coming from like just like the business side, trying to like make something in a way that's like ultimately gonna have a return on it. You have a different perspective, so it's really great that you have that positive attitude, because it's a pretty rare quality. Not a lot of people have that. Sometimes people are like, no, these fish look awesome. Fuck you. Like, they look great.
I made a fish brush. How dare you?
I made a fish. Yeah, you all want to make that brush?
I'll be honest. I can be guilty of that sometimes.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I love my fish.
No, these fish are great. And you're like, cool, fine. I'll make a different fish, but I'm gonna make my own fish. Okay. Yeah. That's great.
Anybody else have questions?
Ryan, did you try with like a reddish color? I know the sea is blue, but like I can't help but imagine your piece being like a dune sort of red vibe.
Oh yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
That would be really cool. Yeah, that would make it feel very otherworldly. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know, just a thought.
No, it's really cool, and that would be an easy thing to do over the top of this thing. Yeah, that'd be sweet.
You mentioned in the beginning that you were doing this as something for Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Are you going to try and send it and like get feedback / I don't know what that process is, but it's super
Yeah, I don't exactly know either. It was just like whenever I work on stuff for myself, I like to try to direct it towards some sort of goal. So it's like if I can do 5 pieces and like one for kind of each of the colors, that would give me like something to hit. I've only done 2 of them though, so I've got more work to do before I submit. But yeah, I do intend on one day doing that. So I got a few more to go here.
Awesome. I can say wholeheartedly that I love the idea of doing like the pre-sketch before doing like the official piece. I think that's a super smart way to work. Like sometimes it's like I get ahead of myself and I just jump right into the final piece, and I think the way you're doing it is much smarter, going in and just picking apart like the little things.
It's really tempting to do all that stuff right away, because like I always want to jump towards like, oh, the fun part's when you light it, like, oh, and then the not fun part is like doing 20 black and white comps to figure out what you like and that sort of work, but it pays off.
Nice. So one last question before I open it up to pretty much like all the pieces, show and tell included. Rashida and Ryan, can you guys talk about how you guys find your compositions in general, or just like your thought process in deciding on your compositions?
Usually I'll just thumbnail a bunch of stuff that's really dirty, and then I'll show it to someone else, because I feel like that's the safest thing for me, because sometimes your first idea is the best idea. Most of the time it's not for me. So I always need feedback on that stuff.
Lots of sketching. I like Post-it notes. I like to sketch like with a blue pencil. I don't know why. It's not like, it doesn't feel as permanent as like a pen or a pencil. Yeah, I like to do it by hand too. That's like what I do.
Yeah, by hand I agree. By hand, for some reason, for me, always feels like quicker and more efficient.
Yeah. Definitely do something what you're comfortable with. Like, it's different for everybody. I know some people that draw on their phones, and that's cool too.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, I completely understand it. Like I flip flop from between my sketchbook and just doing everything in After Effects or in Cinema 4D, because I find a lot of times like I'm super quick in the programs now, especially when generating ideas, and the undo key is amazing, or just having a camera key. I don't know. What does the rest of the group think? Like, how do you guys quickly like bang out ideas or concepts?
I'm the same way, man.
After
I'm all
Effects?
about After Effects.
Or Cavalry now, man. Your Cavalry stuff
That's
is
right.
sick. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
What about the photographers in the group? How do you guys go about deciding angles?
I think there's a lot of drawing on old junk mail, little sketches of things, and it's a lot of lighting diagrams, and then trying to figure out from there. I seen both Rosita and Ryan's sort of step process was really inspiring. I think I like seeing the reference images turned into, something that's one thing, and then that one thing turns in, and you can see a very clear story arc and creation arc there, which I really like. Maybe it's worth saving all these junk mail scraps that I have flying around.
That's awesome. It's funny. I think the thing I picked up between all the show and tells and the two presenter pieces is use of colors. How is everyone like picking out like their color palettes nowadays? Because like I don't know. I feel like I hit the same like 4 tones and only the same 4 tones.
We all work in black and white, is what we're saying. We don't.
I would love to hear from Brian Naro over there, because he just finished a music video that had a lot of color in it, and you're being very silent. And I think that you should talk about the color exploration in that music video that you did with your wife. It was very, 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 very cool.
Honestly, I just flip a bunch of dials till I go, that's cool. No, I mean, just like watching other people, looking at other people's work, you know, and stealing all that. The color palettes, they're all awesome. I know, B, you were saying that you don't like green and magenta, but your stuff looks great. And I'm going to steal
Thanks,
that
man.
now, so thank you for that. But I mean, and you talking about how the photographers get angles and stuff, just do the same thing over and over until I go, that one's good, and I just keep doing the same thing. And the same with color palette, I've been finding is that I just, so kind of like when I'm seeing the progression from the artist, you just slowly keep pushing, you know, either a contrast or a color palette, just jam it into the photo how I want it to work. So that's kind of how it works for me.
Yeah, it reminds me of this quote that stuck in my head for years, which is design is making something less shitty over time. It's just kind of how I approach a lot of things. Like eventually, if I do this enough, it will not be shitty.
Right.
That's the hope.
Yeah, I don't do it enough. It sucks.
Oh man.
I was just gonna say that I save like both through Pinterest and Instagram and all kinds of places anytime I like any color palette, so that I just have like a massive color board that is not related to any specific kind of work, so that I can look at it and just say like, man, this looks good. I'd really like to work in this range.
I do that so much, and I'll talk to photographers and be like, "Oh, what, you know, I love the save collection feature on Instagram." They're like, "Oh, what's that?" I'm like, "Are you kidding? I live by that. Like, it's pages and pages and pages, and I wish I could like somehow download it now, but I don't know how to." But yeah, it just saving stuff on Instagram and then going through the archive. That's a great point.
I guess the one good thing about social media, right?
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing, or since I run Creators Not Robots and myself, I'll send it to myself, and that's how I run through. I'm like, oh yeah, this was really cool. I remember this. Jason, going to your show and tell piece with the really two light colors. Did you have any issues working with like that color setup or that color palette?
No. So those they're really like gels, and then no, I didn't have any issues with it. I've worked with a lot of photographers who have like their main like specialty, like their specialty or main focus is like working in colors and like doing like weird gels like that and stuff. So I was pretty comfortable going into it. And when she came to me and like showed me, like, she was like, this is my branding and this is my work and my color palette and stuff. I was like, I know exactly what we're gonna do with this, and it worked really well, I think. So
that's awesome. I usually, like, when it comes to those colors, they all get muddied up, and then sometimes they just bleed into white whenever I try to mess with like light colors in photos. So I was just curious.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of like separating the background from the subject matter, and then when you're like bleeding those colors together, it's just power ratios really, with like if you're pumping them through strobes and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. Sorry. It was like,
no, I think that's awesome.
Get like nerdy or anything.
No, that's the whole point of this, right?
Yeah.
I have a question for Adam. Adam, at any point in your piece, did you stop and ask yourself if you could have done it faster, like an easier way, or did you just stick with it and just frame by frame the entire thing?
That's a good question. I think this year, now you could probably do a lot of the cutting out of the process with AI. But at the same time, it was kind of fun, like I was working on this in between projects, and for most of my work, I can't like listen to podcasts. I can't do anything like that. Like I need to listen to music or listen to what I'm working on. And, just to be able to like cut out some photos and like just zone out was actually kind of, helpful and kind of part of the process. So, I kind of feel like the extra time that it took to make the whole thing kind of probably helped the whole process, is my guess.
It's a lot of work. It's impressive, man.
Well, thank you.
Every time I see it, I was like, I fucking love this piece. I think the reason why I love it is it's in terms of like MoGraph, it's so uniquely different than what I'm used to seeing through my feed, which it did its job. It got me to stop and slow down. So awesome.
No, it's good. Yeah. I mean, I think the message overall definitely applies to this year, especially. So maybe we don't need the reminder every day, but I definitely think it's helpful. Yeah.
Going to Eric real quickly. Like I know all of us here have reels and have cranked through a ton of them in general. Any suggestions for Eric? No.
I don't know anything about building a reel, but I would say that I really appreciated everything flowed together so well. It was almost hard to decipher when I was leaving one piece going to the next one. I thought it had a very smooth motion to the whole piece.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Actually, I just remembered. Eric, do you want to talk about that map section real quickly? I think Ryan had a question, and then we kind of briefly went through it just because we were trying to get through the two presentations.
Sure. Yeah, that's for the Infantry Museum, and it's part of like a bigger piece that we did. Most of it was video, but the style of the map was just kind of based on Cold War era maps we were referencing to get the information right. But it was just about when the U.S. and the other side were kind of like getting closer and closer to the brink, and just about that kind of divide in the middle. But we wanted to make it look like just little toy pieces on a table, and it was actually kind of tricky because in the actual shot, when it was filmed, one person was in charge of the focus and one person was moving the camera, and it wasn't super smooth. So like the focus was like constantly going in and out. So I had to add all these keyframes to like make the actual digital map get blurry and then in focus and then blurry and in focus to try and match up with that. But
Eric, do you have to find all of your own like reference material and stuff, or do they hand you elements to work with?
Typically I do it. We have more animators on staff now, but at the time I was kind of the only animator. And so, and it's not a big production house I work at. So it's kind of like do it yourself. The client will review it. Some things we get more reference than others, but for a lot of that, I was just looking at, Cold War stuff.
Okay. So when they launch you, are they like specific, or are they just like, hey, Eric, the Cold War, right? Just do your thing.
It was maybe more the latter. Yeah. Okay. I think as we've gotten more people, it's gotten a little bit more structured. So now like the AP does the research, and then, goes to the designer and then the animator. But yeah, a little bit of that. Initially the pieces were metal, but then we thought plastic, just through talking with other people, they're like, I think plastic's more like of the era. So we went more with plastic pieces, but yeah, good question. Yeah. Now it's much more like kind of regimented, but still at times it's kind of, yeah.
That's awesome.
Thanks for the feedback.
I got a question for Amy and Sean. How did you guys get involved with that company that does those political advertisements?
Back a few years ago, we volunteered to help the Democratic Party in Maine with some animation, and they were like, "We don't know what that is. Thank you. Maybe we'll pass your names up the ladder." So we made some animations explaining ranked choice voting that we have here in Maine.
Awesome.
And started sharing them to social media. And somebody from the Maine Democratic Party called us and were like, "Hey, could we potentially promote these on social media? Is this what you meant that you did?" And through that, we were sort of lucky to get connected to a few people that then when people get asked, like, "Hey, do you know somebody who does animation or video and is also a Democrat?" They usually end up giving them our names, which is really nice. So this is just a super small, like, it's probably like 5 or 6 women who run it out of an office in Portland. And they were given our name, so we've been working with them.
That's really cool, because I've been, trying to figure out, how do you do anything to help right now,
Yeah.
So it's like, it makes me want to figure out, like, does California have like the same thing?
They do. They totally have a merge as well. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and honestly, the answer is just do it and put it out there, and people are hungry for it, and they'll notice. They'll signal boost you.
Okay. Awesome.
That's awesome. I have a quick question for the photographers in the room, because I'm just generally curious. That would be Kyle, Mike, Bryant, Jason, and then anybody else that I might have missed that's a photographer. Like, when it comes to landscapes, all you guys do really kick-ass landscape photography. And I have to be honest, I have the hardest time, like, just getting in there and framing up. Like, I've gone from 24 millimeter to as wide as I possibly can, to like as telescoped as I possibly can, and it's like a strange thing to grasp. I'm just wondering, like, your line of thinking when it comes to just landscapes or just like outside woods and forests.
For me personally, like you saw in that lake photo, I like looking for, like, I obviously love shooting on like calm lakes because you get that really nice reflection in there. But another thing, I know the 2 that I showed were kind of bad examples of this, but I love finding other elements in nature that I can frame whatever my subject is, like mountains or whatever, with like, where's that photo? Oh, I've got it hanging up, but like one of Peter McKinnon's photos where I forget what mountain he has, but he has like the trees in the foreground out of focus, and it just kind of draws your eyes more toward the mountain range that he's taking a photo of. So, but like oftentimes the photos that I'm taking, like, I feel like sometimes I'm cheating because like the scenery is just so beautiful that it doesn't really take much just to snap the photo and everything. But yeah, those are the couple techniques that I typically look for landscape stuff. Or getting like, another suggestion I have is like getting closer to the ground too. And shooting like up, or like looking for a path or some sort of other element that you can use within the frame to draw your eyes more toward the subject that you're trying to shoot. That's what I love doing and trying to do.
What direction?
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I like is like putting something in the foreground, or like not necessarily like in the foreground, but giving the entire scene some sort of perspective. Like if you have some sort of perspective on like how epic the entire scene actually is, it gives you like a little bit more of a respect for it, and it gives you more things to like kind of like pull out of the image. Like if you're like oh, like this waterfall is like is really pretty, but then you notice that like all the little dots in the waterfall are like seagulls, and then you're like, holy shit, this thing is like way bigger than I ever imagined. It's like stuff like that in landscape photography that I feel like just takes it to the next level.
That's all really good advice. I don't know anything about landscape, so I really appreciate that advice.
Mike, you're being honest, man. You've got some awesome photos as well.
No, I think it's, you gotta, I think having, I feel like if there's not a person in it, I struggle with it. I think they're a great scale reference. Everyone knows the rough height of a person, so no matter where they are, they have an immediate reference. Yeah, I think it's a lot of dealing with foreground, and I think now that the last decade or so has been acceptable to have 30-40% of your picture totally blurred out with foreground stuff, it's made it a lot easier to sort of be able to create a bit of a visual depth in images.
It's awesome. All right, we're nearing 9:30, so any last questions before we end Creatives Not Robots for 2020? Last comments or anything?
Thanks, B.
Yeah, great job, B.
Super awkward ending.
It's been real fun.
Yeah, no, this has been awesome. Thank you guys. This has been an amazing endeavor. Thank you, Rashida and Ryan. Both your works are super inspiring. And Rashida, my daughter actually made it in there. You can see her name is Kino. I don't know if she saw the full presentation or not, but hopefully it'll encourage her to go outside and use her skateboard as well. So we'll see. And then Ryan, that painting was awesome. I love the perspective, and I kept wanting for some reason to see some bones.
Yeah, I gotta leave the audience wanting more skeletons though.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Or like
That's
dead,
what they say.
or like dead floating fish or something. I don't know, but it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then thank you to everyone who did show and tell. Like I couldn't have asked for a better way to end it in terms of show and tell. Like you guys came in full force and you guys killed it. It was an amazing stack of work to go through. I don't know. I don't know if I can speak for everybody, but I left pretty inspired. So awesome. All right. Peace out. Enjoy.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Later.
You guys.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Yep.
B.
Oh,